The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.
It is the Morning Sports Desk on a Thursday, the 8th of August. I'm CJ. Back from his hiatus is Corey Tackman. Corey, how you feeling? Well rested, recharged, ready to roll?
I'm not well rested. We went camping, tent camping with a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. I slept, but not really.
Yeah.
Well, that sleep last night in your bed when you get back home for the first time, boy, does that feel nice. And then, I woke up in like a puddle of drool. It was just, I haven't slept that hard in a long time. You know how I feel. I like work, but I don't need to be at work. I'm not like compelled. I'm not one of those people who finds life fulfillment out of working every single day. Which sounds harsh. Whatever. You understand. We can have conversations about that later if you want. I did not want to come to work today. I was very tired. I also, if you don't mind, since Sunday, on top of going camping Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, since Sunday, my phone has absolutely been blowing up with, as it identifies them here, potential spam calls. I have gotten, and we're going to count through these together. What I think happened is from the storm, I'm getting calls from it's like these fake companies that want your insurance and all that stuff. Okay. So let's start Sunday let me see when I got this, at 11:35 a.m. Are you ready to do this together?
Sure.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 spam phone calls since Sunday at 11:35. The last one coming 13 minutes ago at 11:27 a.m.
Maybe you should just call him back and you won't have this problem.
Well, I've tried everything. I've tried ignoring it. That doesn't make it go away. I've tried answering but not saying anything because I don't want them to have my voice. So I just answer the phone call and let them hang up on me. I've blocked every single number that is called, and I'm still getting them.
Yeah.
Today I've gotten at 9 a.m., 10:13, and 11:27. So every hour and 15 minutes or so, I get another phone call. I want to throw my phone into the lake.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, too. It's not even like back in the day where a telemarketer had to like actually dial the phone and somebody had to be on the line. Most of these are robocalls, or at least a lot of them now, where it's just AI. Like you can use AI to generate prompts and do whatever, and you have kind of an automated message, and you have all this stuff where you can just have a computer do all of this for you. So yeah, you can't even have the fun of like messing with somebody. It's not.
No.
What happened to the game I love? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and all they need you to say is, say your name maybe, or like yes. And now I'm not messing with any of that stuff. So I don't know what else to do.
Right.
And I know that just picking up and say, please remove my name, like that's not going to get anything done.
Right. Please remove me from your list. Now, okay, fine. There's another one. There's another list that they'll pull you from.
Yeah.
Turns out every single time you enter your email address into something, that company has probably had a data breach at some point. So congratulations.
Correct. And some of them are labeled like potential spam. But then here's one from Lee Center, Minnesota, from Montgomery, from Faribault, there's Montgomery.
When they get like the Wadena area code. So you're like, oh, it's a Wadena, like a 639. And you're like, oh, maybe it's somebody I know who's trying to get a hold of me and I don't have their number in my phone. Nope. No, it is not.
Right.
So anyway, it's disappointing. It's frustrating. It's enough to make you want to jump in the lake. That's exactly how I felt watching the Twins game yesterday, Corey, because I was watching, it was a day game in Wrigley. Joe Ryan, Twins are up 2-1 going into the bottom of the second. I go to use the bathroom.
Yep.
I come back from the bathroom, and all of a sudden, I see that the Twins have whatever his name is, Steve Richards, Garrett Richards, Don Rickles. I don't know who it is, but he shows up in this game, and the guy who the Twins traded for from Toronto, Trevor Richards, point is, doesn't matter. When you see that guy showing up in the second or third inning of a game, it's not good.
Not good at all.
Joe Ryan left the game, and then he proceeded to walk like 6 batters, which again, as we talked, he has some upside, some promise. Got a nice little changeup. In his defense, you have to scramble as a reliever when you get thrown in that situation. Like LaTroy Hawkins was with Corey Provis on the TV booth, and he's like, I hated having to warm up on the game mound because you feel like you're rushed. You're not getting comfortable. You're already getting thrown into a spot. You don't get to do your full warm up. Like, you're just out of rhythm. It's a weird spot.
Right.
All of that to be said, this guy's a problem with walking people, and it's why he's a low leverage reliever for the Toronto Blue Jays, and it's why it cost the Twins literally nothing to get him. And the wheels fell off for him, and the Twins ended up losing big because they had to dump their whole bullpen in a game that really they had their whole bullpen set up to try and win the game, and instead, because their offense doesn't help them out either, they end up losing 2 out of 3 games against the Cubs. Now they swept the White Sox, so they're 4-2 against the Chicago teams. Perfect. You'll take that. Now you have a big stretch at home against the Cleveland Guardians, 4 games in 3 days. I think the doubleheader is on Friday, and the Twins, here you go. Big stretch. We've talked about it before. We talked about it last week, but Corey, just instant gut reaction. No diagnosis yet on Joe Ryan, but just gut reaction on him leaving early, because you don't leave early unless you feel something's really not right.
Yeah, it's we're at the weird time of year now too, where I go through a lot always, and some of this is just going to sound like I don't mean to explain this to you because you clearly understand it. That's not, but this is what goes through my head a lot of times when it comes to injuries and guys leaving. One is the old school mentality of just suck it up, dude, because oftentimes it's never that bad, right? And we all grow up with that, just get through it and you can figure it out. Obviously, we know that that's not always the healthiest response to fighting through. Knowing the difference between being hurt and being injured is a phrase you hear a lot. And it feels like a lot of times these guys leave hurt, not injured. But the other side of that is there's a lot of money on the line, and there's a lot of importance for the team that is on the line in all of this. And if you are hurt, not injured, but hurt, being hurt could lead to an injury, and you need to be proactive about those sorts of things and not reactive. It's August, as we talk today, it's August 8th. Joe Ryan is going to be really important for a push run. And if that means he needs to miss a start and just rest for a week and get his body right and get the time that it needs to align, get his chakras in line and get his mind in order, whatever it is to get him right for the stretch run that the Twins need, they have to do that. They're obligated to do that. It's sometimes hard as a fan to understand that because you want to see the best guys out there. But if he can't be his best, he's going to be a detriment. And so my gut reaction to all of this always is kind of twofold, and it hits in different waves. Like, man, I wish he was out there, and I wish he could just suck it up. And who knows what is it going to be bad? Is it not going to be bad? Is it going to seem silly that he was out? Are we going to find out that he's been pitching with this for a while, like he didn't tell anybody about the last time he got injured? and then he got really hurt and he missed a stretch run where they really needed him. I don't know. Does that sound familiar to you at all? Does Joe Ryan ever gone through something like that? Like, this is really, it's important that he's there at the end. If he can be, they need to get it right now.
Right. A tricep tightness was the official reason for why he left the game. Sure. Rocco Baldelli didn't make it sound like it's like, you know, if it was a season-ending injury, let me put it to you this way, like, you would have known because Baldelli would have been just dead in that press conference. Like, he would have, like, you can tell if a guy knows, like, a guy's out for the year. Like, football coaches, when a guy, like, has a knee injury and everybody's, like, 99% sure they tore their ACL, they can't, like, they need to officially diagnose it. But, like, everybody understands that, like, this guy's not coming back for a while. That was not the vibe, at least in reading stuff post-game, that Baldelli had. It made it sound like we need to take a few days to see if it's just, I don't know, man, it was tight, it was weird one day, or if there's something that lingers. But you're right, because Joe Ryan did that last year where he pulled his groin partially or maybe fully, I don't know, when he was warming up for a start against the Atlanta Braves, and then followed by a month where he had an ERA of 8.
Didn't tell anyone. Decided.
It was detrimental to the team.
Yep.
Like, they lost a lot of his starts.
And you appreciate the grit, right? Because we all grow up with that. Just fight through it. It's better with you.
My team's in a playoff race. I'm pitching at an all-star level. I need to be there for the boys. And then in you trying to do that, you actively made it harder for them to win ball games.
So I don't know. We're all saying a lot to say. It's probably not anything to worry about.
Right.
But
if he misses like a start or two, it's not the end of the world. And the point, like you said, is getting him ready for a stretch run. Because Joe Ryan, I mean, Bailey Ober's been pitching really, really well. So, but if the playoffs start today, it's Pablo Lopez and then some combination of Ober and Ryan are your 3 starting pitchers in a wild card series. That's who you're rolling with.
Right.
So, yeah, if they lose him, yeah, they're not going to lose him for the season, it looks like. But, I mean, if you were, like, that'd be a huge blow because behind them is a couple rookies and Chris Paddock. And, I mean, Louis Varland's going to make a start at some point in this Cleveland series. But, like, you know, Zebby Matthews is another pitching prospect, just pitched really well this year and just has made a handful of starts in AAA only. But, I mean, there's a chance maybe he gets called up. But either way, like, that's a lot of rookies you're leaning on to anchor a starting rotation through, as we've talked about before, the toughest stretch that they have for the rest of the season. So, you know, if Joe Ryan misses a start or 2, it's not the end of the world. However, he's going to miss a start against the Kansas City Royals in a big series to try and keep them at bay. The good news in all this, Corey, is that even though the Twins lost 2, remember how we'd always talk like the Twins could win 5 out of 6 and they'd still somehow lose ground in the AL Central?
Yeah.
This is the reverse of that. The Twins lost 2 out of 3 in Chicago, but because the Gardos got swept at home by the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Twins are only 3.5 games out of first place in the AL Central. The Royals are a game behind the Twins, so they're not too far behind. But if you were going to pull yourself or ask yourself on March 27th, the day before opening day, and say, Corey, on August 8th, the Twins are going to be the Twins are going to be 3.5 games back of the Cleveland Guardians for first place in the AL Central. Do you take that? How often? 10 times out of 10?
I mean, if you would have asked me that at the beginning of the season, I would have been like, what do you mean? They're not winning the division? They're not 3.5 up on Cleveland? Come on here. What's going on? That probably would have been my answer at the beginning of the season. But right now, they're considering how abysmal the season started. There was a stretch there that was not very fun. But they kept kind of like plucking away a few wins every now and then to keep themselves in it, which, as we're finding out August 8th, is really important that they got those, that they just like did their very best to not hang themselves or whatever is the right term to use there. Yeah, I'm fine with them being 3.5 out. And to just add on a little Joe Ryan bit here, even a start or 2, you're right. The full big picture actually is like, if he doesn't pitch again until September, it's probably okay.
You can live with it.
But he is missing a really important stretch here. And boy, if you win 4 out of 6 the rest of the way, you're probably going to be the division winner.
Right.
That's pretty simple, right? You just won 4 out of 6. You gained ground on the team in front of you. keep winning 4 out of 6, you're going to win the division.
It's a nice pace for them to be at.
Yeah.
And the thing about talking about the beginning of the season, I think, like you talked about, if you said that, you're like, okay, like I'll take it, but what are they, like 500, a few games below? Like, what's going on? And you go, no, actually, they have the 4th best record in the American League. Like,
oh, right, exactly.
Like that's where they're sitting this year. So it's been wonky. Twins, like you talked about, had that rough start, and then they had that big kind of boost back. But really, since then, it's just been a constant incremental climb for them of they'd win 2 out of 3, win 2 out of 3, win 2 out of 3, win 2 out of 3. And we talk about it all season long. It's important to win series, not games. And don't focus on individual games, focus more on individual series. The Twins have been doing that. And all of a sudden they're 13 games above 500 with just over a month to go in the regular season. So,
or even like approach it like a football season. There's in the NFL season, there's 18 weeks. You can't win all the weeks because one of those weeks are a bye. But if you win most of the weeks, you're going to the playoffs. The same is true in Major League Baseball. I don't know how many weeks are in a Major League Baseball season. But if you win most of the weeks, you're going to be in the playoffs. You're going to be right. So just keep winning weeks. Just even winning series sometimes gets to be a little short-sighted. They did not win the Cubs series and still gained ground because they won 4 of 6. You got to take these bigger increments into account in a baseball season.
I got 29 weeks.
29 weeks. If you just be 29-0.
Yeah.
If you're 29-0,
you're the Dodgers. You're winning 117 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. See, it's not that hard. Baseball's an easy game.
It's an easy game. I was always told this by my high school coach. Baseball's an easy game. First at bat, you hit a home run, make the defense back up on you in the outfield. Second at bat, you hit a bunt, you get a bunt single. That way the infield comes in, and then the rest of the game, you just have this perfect zone right in the shallow infield. You just hit it over everybody. Baseball's an easy game. Just do that. All you have to do. I say that when I go golfing. Just keep the ball in bounds. You'll shoot a score you'll be okay with. That's it. It's not that hard. Just hit the ball in play, and you will shoot a score you'll be happy with. And I say that as I drop 3 in the fairway again, which is also, that's not even how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to re-tee. All right, moving on. Baseball, it's an easy sport. So easy, super easy, totally unprecedentedly easy.
Yep.
But it's a hard sport is hockey.
Okay.
And the thing about hockey is I can't play it, but some people can. And it's thanks to it's in the Wadena Deer Creek, was surrounding central Minnesota.
Yeah.
Obviously Wadena Deer Creek is the place to go for hockey for everyone. And if you look on the Herb Brooks Foundation Facebook page at Keller Golf Course in Maplewood on Monday, the foundation presented the 2024 Youth Hockey Hall of Fame Award to the Grendal family from Wadena. Bob Grendal and his son Robbie have been highly devoted, this says, to youth hockey development. Bob was an original founder of the Wadena Hockey Association, active coach at every level, referee, hockey board member, honorary life member of Wadena Hockey Association, and assistant coach of the first Wadena High School varsity hockey team. Robbie is now the head coach of the Wadena Deer Creek High School team. Bob sadly passed away before receiving this award, but we are honored to share this induction news with him before he will be truly missed. We thank them for their passion, dedication, and commitment. Congratulations, and keep growing the great game of hockey, says the Herb Brooks Foundation in a post. Corey, anything really to add to that? I mean, that pretty much says it for itself.
So I never got to meet Bob, but I know Robbie pretty well. And we've talked about Robbie. I know you've had many conversations with Robbie, with Norm Gallant, the AD at Wadena Deer Creek. Wolverines hockey, I know is they went through a lean year this past year and will get leaner. in the upcoming season. They've got I know some young talent that's kind of coming up through the ranks, but they're quite young, right? There's like middle school still. And I don't know personally anybody who's more well equipped to just be able to handle the sort of flux that this situation is bringing to a program than Robbie. He's just expertly, naturally built and talented at this. He was the exact right guy to be able to handle, what was a tough year a year ago at the varsity level. And I think it's going to, I think all projections are that it's going to be, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that it is going to be a lean next year or two, or maybe even three at that varsity level. But Robbie's just an awesome guy. He's a great teacher on top of being a great coach. Weird how that works, right? Great teachers are great coaches and vice versa. But it's just really cool that he's being honored and recognized for something like this. When his dedication has been, on the radar and off the radar or under the radar, whatever, like he's just involved. He's just got his hands in it and fingers in it. And to see Bob be honored this way as well, without having ever met the guy, but knowing Robbie, it means a lot. And it's always cool when someone around the area gets a recognition like this above and beyond, folks in the association just being like, hey guys, good job. Right. It's cool that they get that recognition.
It's a really cool award. Congratulations to the Grendel family, and just awesome to see stuff like this happen. It's really, really, really cool. Moving on, Corey, we're going to talk Minnesota Vikings because they have their depth chart out right now for the team, the first unofficial depth chart. Now, Kevin O'Connell was pretty quick to say, now, guys, don't make any big deals about this. The league is making me put this out. I have to do this. But he still has to do it, which means it's something that we can talk about.
Yeah, they're not flippant, but just because he has to do it doesn't mean he's flippant about it.
Right.
They still put thought and regard into what's happening.
He doesn't have Nick Mullins as QB1. You know what I mean? Like, Jaron Hall's not starting
right
quarterback here. Like, there's levels to this. So, Corey, I'm going to run through the first unofficial depth chart with you, and let's just see what we got, because there's a big announcement, one that we probably saw coming, but just the fact that we now have it at the quarterback position. So if you look, Sam Darnold is listed as QB1 with the backups JJ McCarthy or Nick Mullins, and then Jaron Hall. Running backs, Aaron Jones, followed by Ty Chandler, Kenny Nwangwu, Myles Gaskin, and Dwayne McBride. Running backs, boom, we already know that. I mean, who cares? It's all about the quarterback, Corey. What's your gut check?
There's no surprise here.
No.
We've talked about this a lot. I'm going to keep bringing it up. The Vikings, I think their PR machine, their propaganda machine is doing a perfect job. They are professing that Sam Darnold is the starter, and the plan with JJ McCarthy is when it's his turn, he'll take over, but not a moment before it's his turn.
Right.
Whatever that means, that's a moving line. Maybe Sam Darnold turns into a Hall of Famer this year, and he has to be your starter again next year. Like that, we could be. Let's see. The Vikings play their first preseason game on Saturday. We could be Friday, Saturday. We could be 3 days away from JJ McCarthy being the starting quarterback, or we could be 2 full seasons from JJ McCarthy being the starting quarterback. So Sam Darnold listed as the starter, JJ McCarthy or Nick Mullins as the backups. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the PR machine's doing a perfect job. Darnold's the guy. McCarthy will be the guy. We are going to give him the best possible chance to succeed. And that's whenever he's ready, which is not quite yet.
Right. And the thing about this is I find it interesting that they go or Nick Mullins. basically that it's a 2B, 2A situation. But I think that's just more of like JJ McCarthy's getting second team reps, just like Nick Mullins is. And Nick Mullins he's been in this offense before. He's the most experienced quarterback in the room. So I think, if you count Josh McCown, I guess, in that quarterback room, even though he's leading it as the coach, but
Josh McCown is Jaron Hall, Josh McCown. He's on the list also. And then
if they have to play Jaron Hall, let me put it to you this way. If they somehow have to put Jaron Hall in a game, Kevin O'Connell is making Josh McCown suit up and unretire.
Is Jaron Hall going to make the 53?
I wonder if they try and, he's definitely not. My guess is they're going to stash him on the practice squad.
Well, right. Yeah.
That's practice squads are bigger. I think that's where it is. I think they wouldn't mind him as like developmental. I think they like him around, like a nice Mormon kid kind of vibe, you know, and maybe he develops into like a backup, but yeah, I think practice squad is for sure where he's going this year. But for Sam Darnold, the thing about him is there was a chance he comes in and looks a little bit like a pumpkin, and JJ McCarthy comes in and clearly shows that he is better. But JJ McCarthy, from initial reports in practice, has had good days. He's had bad days. He's had days where I think, Brian Flores is throwing the kitchen sink at him. And that's a guy who loves throwing the kitchen sink at quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. So that's a guy who gets a little kind of, I think he said quoted as saying I'm ready to see a vanilla defense on Saturday, because as we know, Brian Flores likes to get exotic with the blitzes and the packages and everything that he's doing. But also Sam Darnold has just he's had a couple clunkers here and there throughout practice from what I've heard and read and stuff like that of people that are at practice every day. But Darnold's thrown some nice balls to Justin Jefferson, ones where him and I think I've heard there's a nice chemistry building between Darnold and Jefferson, and they're kind of like you said, the PR machine is doing exactly what it needs to do, which is don't Vikings fans, you want to see JJ McCarthy. I get it. You're excited. We are too. Just be patient. Because look at this guy. He can be all right for a little bit, let him hang around for a little bit.
Yeah.
Before we get to JJ. And again, I don't know when JJ McCarthy starts, whether it's any point this season or next year, or maybe it's week 3. I don't know. The fascinating part will be, my guess is it's Darnold, Mullins, McCarthy on the depth chart week 1, because if you're going to JJ McCarthy may be the second most talented quarterback on the roster, or maybe you view him as number 2, but if you don't view him as number 1, there's no point in having him be a stone's throw away from playing. Because if you think he's ready, just play him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So to add on to a couple of those things, Sam Darnold, the stuff you're hearing about him is who Sam Darnold is. He's got a good arm. He can hit guys. He can throw guys open. He can do all the things, right? He can throw to the 3 levels. He can blah, 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 fill in your cliche. He can run the ball. He's more athletic than he looks. Again, fill in your cliches wherever it is you need to. He also, once a quarter, once a half, once a quarter at his worst, once every 3 quarters at his best, is just going to throw a ball into the other team's hands.
Right.
Whether they catch it or not is just up for luck, basically. So yeah, nobody's selling a bill of goods with Sam Darnold and what he's doing. I think they're just telling the truth. He looks fine, and sometimes he looks like a complete mess. But also, Flores is not there to make the offense look good. He's got his own half of the ball that he needs to coach and try to get them to look good. As far as JJ McCarthy or Nick Mullins, to your point, week 1, yeah, we're talking about Nick Mullins as the official backup. And
Darnold breaks his hand, Nick Mullins is coming in, kind of a thing.
Correct. And we've talked about this, right? But once you get to week, I don't know, somewhere arbitrary, pick in the middle, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 onward, you're probably talking about it being JJ McCarthy's job. Yeah. It also might depend on, are we winning or losing? Are the Vikings 0-5 to start the year and Darnold gets hurt going into that bye week? Well, who are you trying? If you're trying to win games, you probably need Nick Mullins to be your starter. If you don't care about the results anymore, then JJ McCarthy is going to come in sooner than later.
Right. We can talk about the quarterback position all day. It's fascinating. It's going to be great. The first preseason game is tomorrow. we'll preview that, or as on Saturday, we'll preview that tomorrow and talk about some stuff. You can listen to that, by the way, on the Superstation K106.
Booyah.
Booyah. All right. Looking at some of the other things going on, fullback, CJ Ham.
Cool. Good job, dude.
Only guy in the room. Best first name on the team. Wide receivers, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Backups are Jalen Naylor and Brandon Powell, Tristan Jackson, Jayshon Jones, Trent Sherfield, Lucky Jackson, Ty James, Thayer Thomas, and Malik Knowles. Again, wide receiver 3 is going to be up for debate, and it's kind of the two guys we thought it would be, which is Jalen Naylor and Brandon Powell. If you're going by, again, order in which they're listed, Jalen Naylor, the third-year guy out of Michigan State, kind of a developmental piece, slowly working his way into that wide receiver 3 consideration.
Yeah, and it's kind of tiered, you're right, in that backup. It has Jalen Naylor and Brandon Powell, semicolon. And then it has Tristan Jackson, Jayshon Jones, and Trent Sherfield Sr.
Another step down.
So, like, you have your clear 1 and 2, your top tier in Jefferson and Addison, and then you have your clear second tier, and then you got the semicolons for the tiers after that. So, and if you think about Kevin O'Connell, is it really a race to see who the third wide receiver is? Because first of all, Jordan Addison's definitely going to get suspended for at least a game, probably 3.
I think 3 games, was the number that people are kind of suspecting.
So really, you're talking about Jalen Naylor and Brandon Powell being your top 3 receivers for like almost a quarter of the season, a fifth of the season. And then when Jordan Addison comes back, you're talking about Kevin O'Connell offense, where there's going to be 4 guys out there to catch the ball at all times anyway. And especially if a guy like Hawkinson's return is going to get delayed by some way, shape, or form. And it could, because it's a knee and he's a tight end, and that's just how it works. Like, Jalen Naylor and Brandon Powell are going to get the most looks that they've gotten in their career this season.
Right. And you mentioned it. Who is wide receiver 3 on this team? Well, he's injured. His name is TJ Hawkinson. He's wide receiver 3 on this football team. But in terms of the room, it's kind of pretty much how we expected it to work out. And missing Jordan Addison those first few games. You're also not going to have TJ Hawkinson the first few games. It's going to be very interesting.
And Aaron Jones is going to catch balls.
Right.
And Wanwu's going to return kicks, which means he's a guy they can use in like bubble screen game.
Look, and we can't forget about Johnny Munt in all this. We can't. He's the best third string tight end in the league.
Munt cake. That's what I call him.
Yeah, sure. Go with it.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Who is Jayshon Jones, Trent Sherfield Sr., Lucky Jackson, Ty James, Thayer Thomas, and Malik Knowles?
They're those like generated players when you forgot to sign people in Madden and they just need to find you guys. They're what people on the internet call NPCs, non-playable characters. They're just dudes.
Knowles related to Beyonce?
I hope so.
Well, then in that case, I like him. I'll get his jersey. You can buy me his jersey for my birthday. Thank you.
Okay, it's in the mail. We got it ordered. I'll give it to you. In fact, I'll give you an authentic one if you tell me what his number is.
Malik Knowles?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Tight ends, TJ Hawkinson. Backups are Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, Nick Muse, Robert Tonyan, N'Keal Harry. Remember, he converted from wide receiver to tight end.
Yep.
Trey Knox and Sammy's Reyes. A lot of these are camp bodies. We really know it's Hawkinson, Oliver, Munt, and Nick Muse, maybe. He's kind of been a developmental piece. They've really liked him. And Robert Tonyan, the former Packer, had some nice flashes in training camp. Now, he had to get carted off last week. I think he got cleated pretty much and had to like get his legs stitched up. But that's kind of been the room. Forget about N'Keal Harry, Trey Knox, Sammy Reyes. Those guys don't matter. The real question will be, can Josh Oliver be a viable receiving tight end threat while Hawkinson is gone? He's obviously not going to be Hawkinson, but Josh Oliver, more of a blocking tight end. You're going to need to figure out how to get that part of your pass game moving, because if you don't have Hawkinson and if you don't have Addison for those first few games of the season, somebody's got to step up in that room.
Well, I think he can be a viable option. I mean, I don't know what kind of hands the guy has or anything like that. But what's important to remember about TJ Hawkinson is that he's like a special talent at tight end,
Mm-hmm.
that changes your game plan entirely. Can Josh Oliver do what TJ Hawkinson can do? Probably not. But can he do what most tight ends are asked to do? Absolutely. He can catch your 5-yard out in the flat for a first down. He can catch your on the left hash at the goal on the 2-yard line. Fake dive left, he sneaks out to the right for the touchdown. He can do those things. He can catch your seam route in the middle of the field. You're not like, he's not going to be your number one option, but he's a tight end. He can do tight end things. And if he couldn't catch, he would have converted a long time ago to guard.
Right.
So, like, can he do TJ Hawkinson things? No. Can he do tight end things? Absolutely.
Sure. Tackles, pretty straightforward. Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill are your starters. Backups, Walter Rouse, who was a draft pick for them. David Quessenberry is their swing tackle. Jeremy Flax and Doug Nestor, I think Jim Cott has a nickname for him, are your developmental pieces there. And this kind of goes right in line with the interior offensive lineman. Garrett Bradbury, your starting center. Ed Ingram, your starting right guard. Left guard is not Dalton Reisner. In fact, it is listed as Blake Brandel, which I know when Dalton Reisner came back, a lot of people assumed he was going to be the starter. Right now, if on this unofficial depth chart, it's Blake Brandel, your starting left guard. But again, swap him in and out. I mean, if you're an interior offensive lineman, if you're a backup, you know you're going to start at least 2 games throughout the course of the regular season, just with how offensive linemen get banged up. I think really, Corey, the biggest takeaway, this might be the deepest offensive line group the Vikings have had in a while. And I know that's a low bar to clear, but it feels like just normal. Every single year, it felt like we were always worried about the offensive line. And this is a year where there's some question marks, but there's no gaping tire fires to worry about.
Ed Ingram is always the name that stands out because he's had some real tough looks.
Literally.
He's had some real tough looks in his time. But everyone has always said, like, he kind of just slots in. Like, he's like kind of a good player at right guard for whatever reason. He's
slowly developed. It takes offensive linemen for reasons of the fact that you don't have 2-a-days anymore. You can't hit in practice, whatever. It takes offensive linemen a couple of years to kind of grow into the position. Garrett Bradbury did it at center. His rookie year, he would be getting flung up in the air by big nose tackles, and he still does a little bit, but it's the fact of like, he went from like below average center to above average center by now this point in his career. And Ed Ingram, his lows are low and he doesn't have super high highs, but if you look at the trajectory, he's like, there is improvement. There is like kind of something that's getting to a serviceable, like you said, NFL starting guard. Just average.
And it's there's I think a lot of people look at what the offensive line does, and it's just a bunch of meat than just head knocking heads. And it's more of a, there's a lot going on. There's blocking schemes, there's pass protections, there's something different there. Not only is the quarterback calling plays in the huddle, but then they have to get to the line and they have to change their blocking protection right at the line. They've got to change their scheme. Sometimes you're audibling out of whatever the play call was into the secondary play. I'm not saying Ed Ingram is dumb. I'm saying you have to be pretty smart to absorb all of that while at the same time knowing you are going to get flattened by a large full-grown man a mere 6 inches away from you on the other side of the line.
Right. And
you need to not be thinking about all those other things. I know it's corny, but that stuff needs to become, you just need to have it in your crawl space. It just needs to be in there so that way you don't have to think about it. When the call happens, it's automatic. And now you don't have to worry about, is it 5 steps to the right, or is it only 3 steps? Is it a 7-step drop this time, or are we changing to? If you start worrying about all of that, and you have, I don't know, BJ Raji staring you down. I know that's a bad example, but you know what I'm saying. You're going to get flattened, and he got flattened a lot.
Yeah, and again, Kevin O'Connell's offense is complicated. It's something. complicated makes it sound like it's overly complicated. It's just it's an offense that has a lot of layers. It has a lot of expectations for its players to have. And yeah, as a rookie coming in, it takes you a little bit to pick it up. So looking at the defensive lineman group here as we try and breeze through kind of the front seven. If you look at the defensive line starters, again, the Vikings are in a 3-4 defense, and take that for what it is in their base. Their defensive tackle starter, Jerry Tillery, who was a first-round draft bust for, I believe, the Chargers, or at least bounced around for a couple teams before getting to the Vikings. They kind of took a flyer on him. Then you have Harrison Phillips right behind him, and then Jonathan Bullard. James Lynch is the backup. Jaquelin Roy and Jonah Williams all kind of rotate in. Levi Drake Rodriguez was like a 7th-round draft pick for the Vikings. Taki Taimani and Jalen Redmond, Tyler Manoa slide in there as kind of those developmental pieces. Outside linebackers, Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel. That's expected. Backups, Pat Jones, Dallas Turner, right now listed as a backup. Gabriel Murphy and Jihad Ward, Owen Porter, Andre Carter II, and Bo Richter all match up there. If you look at the inside linebackers, it's Blake Cashman and Ivan Pace Jr., with Kamu Greiger-Hill and Brian Asamoah lining up as the backups, Dallas Gant and Jabril Cox of NDSU fame. I know, because every time that name pops up, my wife will go, "Oh, that's Jabril. I know that guy." So I can't escape it. The other, and that's the Vikings group. That's their position group right now in the front seven. And this is a unit that I expect to be the most improved from last season, just because they were so bad at generating pass rush, because it was just Danielle Hunter, go be special. And the 5 plays he got from Marcus Davenport were fun. And shocker, he signed with the Lions on a 1-year deal and started camp injured. So that was all the Vikings had last year to generate pass rush. They've spent a lot of money this offseason to bring in Van Ginkel, to bring in Cashman, to bring in Grenard. They spent a lot of draft capital to go get Dallas Turner. They're putting a lot of investment on this front seven to try and improve the defense.
And all they need, probably more, well, other than offensive line, the defensive front seven, whatever it is, however you call them, linebackers, DNs, whatever, just be healthy. Like, just all of those guys on this page that we're looking at now and on the previous page, Flores was going to want to use all of you. Like Harrison Phillips, nice player. He's not expected to play 85. If you start, that just means you earned the right to start. It does not mean you're going to play the most snaps. It does not. It just be healthy. Dallas Turner's listed as a backup. That dude's going to play a bunch, probably. Right?
Yeah, he's going to play a bunch. He's been mixing in pretty regularly.
Yeah, it's just so there. That defense just is going to require a lot of depth at all of those positions. That, I mean, if it will be allowed by the head coach and the general manager, I think Brian Flores would keep all of these players.
Right.
Well, they're depth chart guys, so I guess technically, but you know what I'm saying.
Exactly. This is going to be a unit that, like you talked about, can they stay healthy? Because last year it was basically relying on one person. They've diversified the production expectations of this defense. Last year was like all the production needed to fall on Danielle Hunter. And if it didn't, they were giving up 40 points. Mm-hmm. And if it did, they were only giving up 27 points, and the Vikings needed to score 4 touchdowns. Right. Like, that's how it was. And the fact that if one guy does get hurt, again, Marcus Davenport got hurt, boom, they just could double, triple Danielle Hunter, and they could pass for 400 yards against the Vikings. So the fact that they're diversifying kind of the expectation level of everybody, and everybody's expected to contribute more, it's just going to be another step towards Brian Flores' defense and year 2 of a system. He brought in players he's worked with before, like Van Ginkel and Cashman and Grenard coming over from Houston. It's going to be, again, I'm not going to say they're going to be like a top 5 defense, but now all of a sudden they don't have to do engage 8 every single play like they're playing Madden. Now they only have to maybe blitz 1 guy instead of blitzing 3 guys and helping out that secondary, which is really, really bad. Moving on to that cornerback group.
Can I just say one more thing really quickly that I would like to add on? I don't know exactly about the new guys that they have at that outside linebacker spot and their or the D end, whatever you want to call it, because they haven't been Vikings in the past. But You look at those middle linebackers, those inside linebackers, they're going to be fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like Pace can get around a little bit. Cashman can get around a little bit. Like their speed is going to be, I think, probably improved, and some of their versatility is going to be improved. Daniil was an awesome pass rusher, one of the best, less versatile of a football player, right? Jared Allen, all-time great defensive end. If you needed him to cover in the flats, you're probably going to get that. Just wasn't. So that seems like a versatile. We know Pace, a little guy, it will have no issue putting his face mask in somebody's chest and running you over, but he can also run with some guys a little bit too. So that part is going to be huge, that they're going to need to be versatile, because as you mentioned, this group, woof.
Yeah, it's not great. Let's just breeze through this. Shaq Griffin and Byron Murphy Jr., your two starters. Byron Murphy was intended to play in the slot this season. Now, due to injuries, he's going to have to go back to the outside. Shaq Griffin is a guy who got cut from the Texans midway through the year last year. So a team that was trying to make a playoff run, they didn't feel like he could help them in that department. Now he's your starting corner. It's not ideal. Caleb Evans hasn't quite developed the way you wanted to. You signed Fabian Moreau, formerly of the Denver Broncos. Andrew Booth Jr. hasn't developed, and again, he was drafted to be more of a zone corner. Now Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator, more of a man corner, not really a scheme fit anymore. AJ Green II, who the heck? Jacoby Francis, who the heck? Jalen Williams, the Duke Shelley, Dwight McGlothern, and Najee Thompson. And then in the safety room, it's Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum. This is just a unit. And we've talked about this before, Corey, and I know we want to wrap up this podcast here, but to basically put the thoughts in, this is basically under construction with this unit. They put all their effort on rebuilding the front seven this year for the defense. Next offseason, believe me, they're going to add a corner or two, or maybe even three to that room.
And one of the, like, you look at this and it's really easy to be like, oh, cool. Harrison Smith there to be the captain of the defense and the ringleader and the old vet and the old pro to teach all of this young up and coming talent about what it means to play in the defensive backfield of an NFL football team. You could say that and make that your headline, right? You could make that, but the actual article would say aging Harrison Smith trying to coach up and play up a less than talented group. There's like, in a perfect world, if Shaq Griffin and Byron Murphy Jr. were going to be like highly drafted, highly touted, highly look out for these guys, they're going to be your corners for the next decade, then now we're talking here. But like, Josh Metellus is probably your next most talented guy and he's going to operate as a backup in the safety department. Metellus made a big impact a year ago.
Right.
You know, Lewis Seen is essential. Is he dead? There's a
good chance he gets cut this training camp, I think.
Right. Exactly. So it's not that it won't work out. I don't want to be the guy at this point of the season to be like, to sell the doom and gloom. I'm not really here for that. It could all work out, and these guys could find themselves and grow into themselves. That can happen. The writing on the wall is that there's not a lot of talent in this group, and the talent that does exist is old in Harrison Smith.
Right. And like you've talked about before, Harrison Smith gets the right to walk out first with the starters and get his name called over the stadium. But if you look at snaps, Josh Metellus is going to have more snaps than Harrison Smith at the end of the year. Harrison Smith, this is probably his last season. I know, like, we've been kind of saying that the last few years. I think this might be it for him. So, like, because they've talked about him being on a reduced snap count. His snaps went down last year. They're probably going to go down again. Harrison Smith gets the right to be the starter, but Josh Metellus he's a backup in name only. Let's just put it that way.
Well, and he's gonna be your de facto kind of other linebacker.
Right. He's like a hybrid.
If you need him to cover, it can't be him. It like arguably could have never been him as far as coverage goes, but he's not covering anybody anymore. We can't, like, that's just not going to be a part of his role. If you need him to go downhill and hit somebody and just outsmart the scheme, he can do that still.
Yeah. All right, one last thing. Kicker Will Reichert, the Vikings 6th round pick out of Alabama. You missed a couple kicks last week, and since then has been like 8.
Hate him. Never liked him. Boo.
Punter Ryan Wright. Backup is Seth Vernon. There is a punting competition, I guess. A long snapper, Andrew DePaula, one of the best long snappers in football. Kickoff returners, Kene Nwangwu. And the backups are Ty Chandler and Brandon Powell. Punt returners are Jalen Naylor. And again, the starter is Brandon Powell on the punt returns. And he did some nice things as a punt returner last season for the Vikings. But overall, the biggest thing with this new kicker, who knows if he's going to be good or not? I don't know. There's punting competition. I think this could be a big year for Kene Nwangwu with the new kickoff rules. And that's what I'm going to leave it at.
I am excited to see what this new kickoff thing turns into. And I'm excited. I like Nwangwu back there to just wreak havoc on that. It feels like it's been a while. And in my lifetime, the Vikings have always had guys who could do it, who could break it. And remember one of his first like maybe 2 or 3 kick returns, he brought it back to the house. So he does have that sort of excitement. For a punt returner, I can't remember the last time I saw a punt return for a touchdown in a Vikings uniform. I also don't really care because just catch the ball.
Hang on to the ball. That's fine.
Just be Marcus Sherrills. Marcus Sherrills was in the NFL for a half a decade longer than he should have been because he
never dropped the ball.
He would just catch it and then he would fall ahead for 3 to 7 yards.
And then he'd hand the ball to the ref, sit back on the bench, and be done.
He was a waste of a roster space, probably.
I'd make the case, though, he's more valuable than because you could add another corner, sure. But, a 4-string corner or a punt returner who never drops the football, which one's more valuable? It's probably that one.
He is totally reliable. And yes, I would take that every single time also.
And he would return he was good for 1 touchdown return a year, typically. Like once a year, he just kind of be shifty and find his way in to the end zone for a touchdown, which is what made him.
Though, because sometimes I think about punt returners and those guys are just fast.
Right.
And he never struck me as fast. He was just kind of shifty enough to kind of this is only going to be a maybe like a 3-yard return. And then he would kind of give you the old slippery little whoop. And then it was a 8-yard return. Like, oh, okay, good job, Marcus Sherrills.
Right.
Yeah, let's go on. Like the difference between getting the ball on the 48-yard line, just short of midfield, and the 48-yard line in their territory. Like that was kind of the difference Marcus Sherrills would bring to it.
Makes a difference. All right, a little bit longer episode today, but that's all right. We got another one tomorrow. We made up for no show yesterday, so you got a double episode today. Congratulations. I hope everybody feels good. There was a ballpark food that we will get to tomorrow. We'll save that. This has been the Morning Sports Desk with CJ and Corey on a Thursday, the 8th of August.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.